The folder hit the desk like a door slamming shut. $45,000 had vanished from a vendor account, and every number in the report pointed at one man. Owen Maddox stood inside the glass office of Sterling Freight with his hands at his sides and said nothing. Behind him, the printer went quiet. Beyond the glass wall, co-workers suddenly found reasons to study their screens, their coffee cups, their keyboards, anything except the man they had eaten lunch beside for 2 years and were now watching become a thief in real time. Lauren Sterling stood behind the desk her father had built the company from, the folder open before her, her face pale with exhaustion and decision. "You have 10 minutes to clear your desk," she said. Owen did not argue. He did not beg. He did not raise his voice, because dignity does not always defend itself loudly. Sometimes dignity understands that a room has already convicted you, and that shouting only gives the room a better story to tell after you leave. He unclipped his badge, placed it on the desk, and nodded once. The silence that followed was heavier than any denial. But what no one in that office knew was that the same man they believed had stolen company money had spent the previous night protecting something that belonged to the woman firing him, her mother's handbag, soft leather the color of dark honey, worth $37,000, left alone on a parking garage ledge. He had found it after midnight, carried it home without opening it, and planned to return it in the morning. Instead, security stopped him before he reached reception, and when Lauren Sterling finally learned that the man she had humiliated in front of the whole floor had every chance to keep what was not his and returned it anyway, the lie built against him would begin to crack. Before we begin, tell us in the comments where you're watching from, and if you believe in dignity, grace, second chances, and the kind of justice that comes when a quiet man refuses to become what others accuse him of being. Hit like and subscribe. These stories remind us that character is not proven when people praise you. It is proven when they wrong you, and you still do what is right. Now, back to Owen Maddox. Weeks before the folder, before the badge, before that long walk through the warehouse with every eye pretending not to see him, Owen lived the kind of life no one paused long enough to notice. He worked days as a logistics coordinator at Sterling Freight, routing trucks, reconciling delivery manifests, chasing vendor discrepancies, and fixing small mistakes before they became expensive problems. The building sat on the industrial edge of Toledo, Ohio, surrounded by loading bays, chain-link fencing, diesel fumes, and the tired music of forklifts reversing under sodium lights. Owen drove a sedan with 190,000 miles on it. He packed his lunch in the same blue cooler every morning. When the others went out on Fridays, he went home. Home was a 2-bedroom rental with a radiator that knocked through the winter, a living room small enough that the sofa nearly touched the bookshelf, and a kitchen barely wide enough for 2 people to pass without turning sideways. In the mornings, though, that kitchen was the warmest room in the world. "Dad, you're burning it again," Mia said from the stool by the counter, 9 years old and certain of everything. Owen lifted the pan. The eggs had browned at the edges. "That's flavor. That's smoke. Smoke is flavor with confidence." Mia gave him the grave look of a child who has already decided her father needs supervision, then ate every bite anyway because that was their deal. On the refrigerator hung a drawing she had made of the 2 of them, stick figures holding hands beneath a lopsided yellow sun. The word "Dad" written in careful capital letters, each letter pressed too hard into the paper. Owen had looked at it every morning for 2 years. He still did. He walked her to the bus stop at the corner, listening as she told him about a girl who could whistle through her teeth, a library book she did not want to put down, and the injustice of math homework on Thursdays. When the bus came, Mia hugged him hard around the middle, the way she had since she was small. He always held on 1 second longer than she did. The money was thin. Sarah's illness had taken what savings they had, then took the future those savings had been meant to protect. The funeral finished the rest. There was a health plan through Sterling Freight that covered most of Mia's checkups, rent that climbed every spring, groceries that cost more every month, and a kind of math that never came out, even no matter how carefully Owen ran it. So when the warehouse posted an after-hours inventory count at time and a half, he put his name down first. That was Owen's life now. Bus stop, work, dinner, homework, laundry, late shifts when they came, and a promise to Sarah he had made without saying it aloud, that Mia would never have to wonder if her father was coming home. Upstairs at Sterling Freight, the people in glass offices lived in another country. Lauren Sterling ran the company her father had built, and lately she ran it like someone bailing water from a boat without looking up to see the storm. There were whispers about Ashford Capital, an outside group pushing hard to buy the company at a discount, pressure from the board, and a CFO named Roland Pierce, who always seemed to be nearby when bad news needed interpreting. Lauren moved through the building quickly, sharp coat, sharper expression, phone at her ear, eyes on the next fire. The few times her path crossed Owen's, she did not seem to see him at all. Roland Pierce saw everyone. That was what made him dangerous. The chief financial officer had a way of pausing at a desk, glancing at a screen, and moving on with a small private smile, as if he had filed away something that might be useful later. His department received the vendor reconciliations Owen prepared. Owen kept his answers short around him. Once, when a vendor report came back wrong, Owen found the error in under a minute, the way another man might hear a wrong note in a song. The clerk beside him stared. Owen only shrugged. "Probably a transposed figure," he said, and went back to his manifests. No one knew that on the shelf above his bedroom closet, behind a box of Sarah's scarves, sat another box he never opened. Inside were business cards from a Chicago forensic accounting firm, heavy stock, embossed lettering, and a name he had folded away with a life that had taken too much from him. Mia did not know it was there. No one at Sterling Freight did. Certainly not Lauren Sterling, certainly not Roland Pierce. To understand the morning that ended Owen's job, you have to go back one night, to the Sunday before. The warehouse closed at 6. By 7, the lot had emptied, and the inventory crew began its slow march down the racks, scanners blinking, clipboards filling, boots echoing across concrete. Owen worked the far aisles beneath high sodium lights, counting pallets in an unheated bay, while his breath fogged in front of him. Mia was asleep 2 doors down at Mrs. Alvarez's, the neighbor who kept a folding cot ready for nights like this. Because kindness, in neighborhoods like theirs, was not always announced. It was simply there, in casseroles, bus stop favors, extra blankets, and porch lights left on. Upstairs on the finance floor, a light stayed on. At 10:50 p.m., Roland Pierce let himself into the finance department long after the building had gone dark. What he did there, no one would see at first, because whatever the cameras recorded between 10:40 and 11:20 did not survive the night. There was only the hum of servers and the soft, practiced work of a man who understood which systems were watched, which systems were trusted, and which systems executives had grown too tired to question. Across the property, Lauren Sterling came out of a board preparation meeting that had run 3 hours and solved nothing. Ashford Capital's deadline sat in her mind like a stone. She rode down to the parking structure carrying an armful of binders, a phone tucked under her chin, and the kind of fatigue that turns even careful people careless. On the upper level, she balanced the binders against her car door and set her handbag on the low concrete ledge beside the space to free her hands. It was her mother's bag. Not just expensive, though it was that too. $37,000. Hand-stitched leather. A piece of inheritance that Lauren still used every day because it smelled faintly, impossibly, like the past. Her mother had carried it to board dinners, church fundraisers, hospital visits, And one rainy afternoon when Lauren, 17 and heartbroken, had cried in the passenger seat while her mother drove without asking questions. Lauren loaded the binders, slid behind the wheel, and drove into the night, already thinking about Monday. The bag stayed on the ledge. At 11:25, Owen clocked out and crossed that same upper level toward his sedan, shoulders aching, eyes raw, hands cold from the warehouse. That was when he saw it. Dark honey leather under the buzzing garage light. Alone on concrete. He stopped. The lost and found window had closed hours ago. The guard on duty was somewhere on the far side of the property. The garage was empty. A bag like that left overnight would be gone by morning. Owen looked around once, then twice. He could leave it. It was not his problem. He had enough problems. But he also had a very clear idea of who would be blamed if something valuable vanished from company property. Someone from cleaning, someone from the warehouse, someone who could not afford an attorney, someone like him. So he picked it up. He did not open it. Whoever she was, her business was her own. He set it carefully on the passenger seat, drove home, and told himself he would carry it straight to reception before his shift and let the front desk handle it. He overslept by 20 minutes. Even so, he was early. At 6:45 Monday morning, Owen came through the lobby with the handbag in his hand, heading for reception, and two people from Human Resources stepped into his path before he reached the counter. A security man stood behind them. "Mr. Maddox," one of them said, "we need you to come with us." They did not say why. They walked him past his own desk, past the printer, past the co-workers who turned their heads in little frightened increments, and into the glass office where Lauren Sterling was waiting with Roland Pierce's report already open. The folder hit the desk. $45,000 gone from the vendor account. Login traces, escrow movement, reconciliation notes. A clean narrative with Owen's name at the center. He understood instantly that the room had already decided what he was before he arrived. Lauren's eyes were hard, but underneath the hardness was exhaustion. Roland Pierce stood near the back wall, hands folded, face arranged in regret. "You have 10 minutes to clear your desk," Lauren said. Owen looked at the folder, then at her. He thought of Mia's health coverage. He thought of rent. He thought of Sarah's sweaters in the drawer. He thought of the handbag still in his hand, absurd and heavy, belonging to the woman who was ending his life with one sentence. Then he unclipped his badge and set it on the desk. "Yes, ma'am," he said. No argument, no pleading. He walked out with the whole floor watching and the handbag still in his hand because no one had given him the chance to return it. He placed it back on the passenger seat and drove home unemployed. That night, Owen sat at his kitchen table with the handbag in front of him while rain tapped softly against the window. Mia was in bed, though not asleep. Children know the difference between a tired house and a frightened one. Owen finally opened the bag. Not to pry, not to punish, not to search for a secret that might give him leverage. He needed a name, a card, something to let him return it and be done. Inside, everything was still in order. Wallet, keys, a silk scarf, a lipstick, a small framed photo of a woman who looked like Lauren but older, softer, smiling into sunlight. Owen opened the wallet and found a driver's license. Lauren Sterling. He set the license down very carefully, as if it might go off. The woman who had called him a thief in front of the entire floor had left a $37,000 handbag on a garage ledge the night before, and it had ridden home in his car while she signed the report that cost him his job. The math was simple and ugly. A man branded a thief returning her bag the next morning would look like exactly what she already believed him to be. Someone working an angle, trading property for sympathy, maybe trying to manipulate his way back into a paycheck. The easy thing, the safe thing, was to leave it anonymously at a police station and disappear from Sterling Freight forever. He turned the wallet over in his hands and felt the old life stir. The life that knew precisely how things looked, how evidence could be bent, how truth without context could be made to kneel. Dad? Mia stood in the hallway in socks, hair flat on one side. You didn't come say goodnight. Owen closed the wallet. I'm coming. Go on back. She did not move. Did something bad happen at work? He thought about how to answer without lying and without making a 9-year-old carry adult fear. Some people think I did something I didn't do. Mia considered that with her whole small face. Then she crossed the kitchen and wrapped her arms around him. I know you didn't do anything bad, she said into his shirt, as if it were the most obvious fact in the world. You never do. Owen closed his eyes. When he opened them, the question of the bag had answered itself. The next morning, he drove to the company he no longer worked for and asked the front desk to call Lauren Sterling. They told him to wait. They did not expect her to come down. She came. She stopped when she saw the bag in his hands. For a moment, something moved across her face that had nothing to do with him. It was the look of a person who had given up on getting back something irreplaceable and was now watching it return from the dead. Where did you get that? She asked. You left it on the ledge in the parking garage Sunday night. I found it on my way out. He held it out. Everything is still inside. I didn't touch anything except the wallet to find your name. Lauren did not take it at first. Not take. Suspicion had already become a reflex. You expect me to believe that? Owen looked at her. After Monday, I don't expect anything. It's yours. That's the only reason I'm here. He placed the bag on the counter between them and turned to leave. Behind him, Lauren finally picked it up. She checked the wallet, the photo, the keys, the inner pocket where her mother had once tucked a handwritten recipe. Nothing was missing. Every word Owen said matched the security report already sitting unread in her inbox about where she had last been seen with the bag. She stood in the lobby holding her mother's handbag and watched the door close behind the man she had fired with such certainty. For the first time, the certainty cracked. It did not shatter all at once. Cracks rarely announce themselves. They widen quietly, on their own time. Lauren told herself it meant nothing. A returned bag was not innocence. A guilty man could be honest about a wallet and dishonest about money. But Roland Pierce's report sat open on her screen that afternoon, and now that she read it line by line instead of signing it on a morning when every fire in the company had been screaming at once, something about it would not lie flat. The report was Pierce from start to finish, his analysis, his summary, his conclusion. There was no interview with the accused, no statement from Owen, no chance for him to explain, no second set of eyes before termination. The recommendation to fire him immediately before anyone outside the building could whisper the word fraud had been Pierce's. And Lauren had signed it because Ashford Capital was watching, the board was nervous, and she had wanted one problem to disappear before it became 10. She called HR herself, which she almost never did. Where was Owen Maddox clocked when the money moved? The answer took a minute. He had been on the after-hours inventory count in the warehouse, 3 buildings and 1 locked stairwell away from the finance floor. His badge had never touched the 3rd floor that night. Not then. Not at any time the system could find. Lauren sat with that for a while. Then she picked up the phone and called him. She told Owen it was a formality, that she needed to verify a few figures before the file closed permanently. He did not point out that he no longer worked there and owed her nothing. He answered evenly with the restraint of a man who had learned not to waste his pain on people who might use it against him. When Lauren read him the vendor reconciliation, the one number the whole report leaned on, the supposed $45,000 loss, he went quiet. That figure can't be the loss, he said. Excuse me? The $45,000. It's showing as one clean debit from vendor escrow, but vendor escrow doesn't clear in single debits. It nets against incoming receipts on a rolling cycle. If real money left that account, it left from somewhere this report isn't showing you. A pause. Then, calmly, whoever built this either doesn't understand the account or is counting on the person reading it not to. Lauren had a master's degree in finance. She had run Sterling Freight for 6 years, and a man she had fired from the warehouse floor had just explained in under a minute a control she had not looked at in so long she had forgotten it existed. "How do you know that?" she asked. The pause on Owen's end lasted a second too long. "I've seen accounts like it before." Before she could press him, her office door opened. Roland Pierce leaned in, easy and unhurried, the way a man enters a room he already owns. "I heard you were still turning over the Maddox business," he said, voice soft with concern. He understood the instinct truly. But the evidence was the evidence. And with Ashford watching every move, the last thing the company could afford was to reopen a closed case over a guilty man's wounded pride. He smiled just enough to let the phrase land. The board vote on the Ashford offer, he reminded her gently, was barely 2 weeks out. Lauren thanked him and said she would let it go. After he left, she sat without turning back to her screen, experiencing the unmistakable feeling of someone who has been steered for miles and has only just noticed the hand resting on the wheel. She should have let it go. Instead, 2 days later, she drove across town to see for herself. The address in Owen's personnel file led to a tired block of rentals on the east side. Chain-link fences, small porches, a basketball hoop with no net. Cars parked bumper to bumper along cracked curbs. Lauren slowed the car, unsure what she expected. A man counting stolen money behind blinds. A thief who matched the report she had signed. What she found was Owen Maddox in the patchy grass beside the building, one hand on the back of a bicycle seat, jogging beside Mia as she pedaled in a purple helmet. "You've got it," he said. "Don't look at me. Look where you're going. Don't let go. I've got you." He did not let go until she was steady. Then he did, quietly, without telling her. Mia wobbled, caught herself, and sailed 10 whole feet before remembering to be afraid. When she made it, the look on Owen's face was something Lauren had not seen on a grown person in years. Open, undefended joy. A man with nothing held back. Lauren sat in the car while the engine ticked as it cooled and felt the report in her inbox grow thinner against what was in front of her eyes. Mia spotted the car first because children notice what does not belong on their street. Before Owen could stop her, she rode straight over. "Are you lost? You can have lemonade if you want. We made it with too much sugar, but it's still good." Owen reached them a beat later, recognition crossing his face before a careful, formal stillness settled over it. The stillness of a man who knew exactly what this woman could do with a folder. "Mia, give Miss Sterling some room." "It's all right," Lauren said, and stepped out because there was nothing else to do. They stood in the small yard while Mia explained the lemonade, the bicycle, and the loose tooth she was working on with her tongue. Owen said little. Lauren said less. Between the adults stood a silence that was not hostile, only careful, the kind 2 people share when one has wounded the other and both are too honest to pretend otherwise. Lauren left before the lemonade. She told Mia it was a beautiful bike and meant it, but she did not drive away immediately. She sat at the curb and opened the warehouse camera system on her phone, pulled the date, and scrubbed to the hours when Owen was supposedly on the finance floor. The screen returned a flat gray box and 4 words. Footage unavailable. 10:40 to 11:20. The exact window. Not random. Not corrupted across the night. Gone as cleanly as if someone had reached into the system and lifted out the truth. Lauren lowered the phone, looked back at the little yard where Owen was adjusting the bicycle chain, and felt the ground shift beneath everything she had been certain of. The call came 2 days later from a number she did not recognize. Theo Briggs had run security at Sterling Freight for 11 years, a broad, quiet man who noticed things and mostly kept them to himself. He asked in a careful voice if they could meet somewhere away from the building. Lauren chose a diner off the highway, burnt coffee, vinyl booths, truckers nursing pie at the counter. Theo slid into the booth with a manila envelope and kept one flat hand on it as if it might get up and leave. "I almost didn't call," he said. "I need you to understand that. My security contract feeds 3 families besides mine. The man who approves it every year is the same man I'm about to talk about." Lauren nodded. She was not sure she understood yet. Theo opened the envelope. The footage from that night didn't fail. It was pulled. Pierce came to me twice in the last year and asked me not to retain certain windows. Said it was about protecting the company in case of lawsuits, privacy issues. He said I should trust him. Theo's mouth tightened. I didn't like the smell of it, so I kept copies of the things that matter most. Door logs, badge server is separate from cameras. He never thought about that one. He turned a printout toward her. Lauren read it twice. At 10:51 Sunday night, Roland Pierce's badge unlocked the finance floor. No entry for Owen Maddox. Not on that floor. Not near it. Not all night. The only badge that opened the door to the room where the money moved belonged to the man who wrote the report, blaming someone else. "He was there," Lauren whispered. "He was there," Theo said. "I can't tell you what he did at his desk, but I can prove he sat down at it and had me erase the only eyes that could show the rest." Lauren found Owen that evening. She had rehearsed nothing on the drive over, and standing on his small porch in the cooling dark, she discovered that even the truth felt heavy when it arrived late. "The report was wrong," she said. "I think part of me has known it for a week. I signed it anyway, in front of the entire floor, and She stopped and then forced herself to finish. "I'm sorry. I know it is not enough, but it is true, and you should hear me say it." Owen was quiet. Lauren braced for anger, coldness, the words she had earned. They did not come. He glanced past her toward the lit front window where Mia's small shadow moved across the curtain, then asked the only question that mattered to him. "When this gets fixed, will my daughter get her health coverage back?" Not his name, not his job, not the humiliation, not the weeks of people looking at him as if honesty had been a costume. Mia's checkups. Lauren stood on the porch with no answer ready and felt something turn over in her chest, a slow and dangerous recognition that she had begun to care very much what this man thought of her. "Yes," she said. "I'll make sure of it myself." Owen nodded. "Then we should find out what he actually did with the money." He stepped back and held the door open. They worked at Lauren's dining table because Owen's was too small. Spreadsheets spread between them while the city went dark outside the windows. She had what he lacked: full access to ledgers, escrow detail, wire records, and internal systems. He had what no one at Sterling Freight had guessed: the ability to read books the way a tracker reads forest ground, seeing not only the prints, but the weight, direction, and intention behind them. He did not announce his skill. He simply moved through the accounts. Within an hour, the shape emerged. The 45,000 had not been stolen so much as routed, broken into pieces small enough to pass below review, moved through vendor escrow into an operating account, then out to a Delaware LLC with no employees, no website, and no business anyone could name. Owen pulled the registration. The shell's manager traced through one more layer to an entity controlled by Ashford Capital. Lauren went still. "He's not just skimming," Owen said. "He's bleeding the company on their behalf. Soften the numbers, manufacture an internal scandal, scare the board, and Ashford's offer starts to look like a rescue instead of a robbery." The 45,000 is almost beside the point. He looked at her. You were the target. Roland Pierce understood he was being followed before they understood he understood. The first blow came by phone. A former colleague from Chicago called Owen for the first time in 3 years to say someone had been asking pointed questions about why Owen Maddox had really left the firm. And did he know anyone might want to make that public? The threat was clear. Stop, or your name burns twice. The second blow was quieter and almost worked. 2 mornings later, a $9,000 deposit appeared in Owen's personal checking account from an unfamiliar source, sitting there like bait, waiting to become new proof. Fresh evidence that the thief had finally been caught moving money. Another man might have panicked, spent it, sent it back in fury and muddied the trail. Owen did none of that. He photographed the screen, noted the timestamp, followed the origin until it dead-ended in the same controlled account Pierce had used before, then left it exactly where it sat, untouched. He called Lauren. He just handed us the last piece. What do I do? Nothing. Don't move it. Don't report it yet. A planted transaction is only a problem if you spend it. Left alone, with timestamp and source, it's a confession. That night, after the work was done, they sat with the quiet between them. Lauren finally asked what had happened in Chicago. Owen told her about Sarah, the diagnosis, the year that followed, the corner office, the long hours, the way ambition had convinced him absence was temporary until illness made every missed dinner permanent. He told her about the morning he resigned without a plan because there was a 4-year-old at home who had just lost her mother and could not also lose her father to a job that ate him alive. Lauren told him about her own father, about inheriting Sterling Freight, about fearing she would fail the only man who had ever believed she could run it, and about how that fear had made her sign a report she had not read. Neither of them said the other thing. It sat in the room with them, unhurried. They let it. Lauren did not call a quiet meeting. She called the full board. She prepared for it the way Owen taught her, not by building an accusation, but a chain, each link able to carry the full weight if the others were doubted. Outside counsel sat in the room. At the far end of the table was an independent forensic auditor with reading glasses on a chain and 40 years of unwinding other people's fraud behind her. Roland Pierce arrived smiling, unhurried, certain he had already won. As far as he knew, the only new development was a $9,000 deposit that buried Owen for good. Pierce opened first, getting ahead of it as he always did. He was glad the board had assembled, he said, because troubling new evidence had come to light. A deposit had landed in Owen Maddox's account days earlier from a source no one could name. The thief, it seemed, had grown careless. He recommended the company bring the matter to police immediately and put the embarrassment behind them. I agree, Lauren said. She let relief flicker across Pierce's face before finishing. We should bring in the police. So let's be certain they have everything. Then she laid it down piece by piece, without raising her voice. Once. First, the access logs from the badge server Pierce forgot existed, showing that at 10:51 p.m., one badge opened the finance floor and it belonged to Roland Pierce. Then the camera gap, the clean rectangular hole where 40 minutes of footage should have been, with recovered system metadata showing the deletion ordered under Pierce's login. Then the money trail, vendor escrow, operating account, Delaware shell, Ashford-controlled entity. Then, last, the $9,000 deposit Pierce had walked in waving like a weapon. Its timestamp came days after the alleged theft. Its origin traced to the same controlled account Pierce used before. The evidence he planted to finish Owen became the evidence that finished him. The room went silent. Completely silent. Across the table, the Ashford representative began quietly gathering folders, putting visible distance between her firm and the fraud now wearing its fingerprints. Pierce started to speak, stopped, started again, and found nothing left under his feet. By the end of the hour, he was suspended, credentials revoked, the file handed to counsel for referral to authorities, every step clean and on the record. In the quiet that followed, the forensic auditor took off her reading glasses and looked toward the back of the room, where Owen had sat almost the entire time saying little, sliding one page to Lauren whenever she reached for it. "I know your work," she said slowly. "That escrow trace, the way it's built, layer by layer. I sat across from you in a restructuring deal years ago in Chicago." Heads turned. "You're Owen Maddox from Halverson. You ran their forensic group." Lauren turned with them and looked at the man she had fired for theft in front of his co-workers. And for the first time, she saw the whole of who had been standing in her warehouse all along. It did not all resolve in a day. Truth may arrive like lightning, but repair moves on paper, and paper moves slowly. Still, it moved. Lauren sent a correction to the entire company under her own signature, clearing Owen without the soft, lawyerly fog that usually exists to protect people who got it wrong. She did not write that mistakes were made. She wrote that the company had accused an innocent man, that the company had been wrong, and that she had been wrong. She sent it to every staff address. She made sure Owen's health coverage was reinstated and backdated to the day of his firing, so not one of Mia's appointments fell through the gap. That was the first promise she kept. She kept another quietly, before anyone else thought to act. Theo Briggs' security contract was renewed for 3 full years, signed and locked, so no one could punish him for the manila envelope he carried into a diner off the highway. Courage, Lauren had decided, should never cost a man his livelihood. Ashford Capital withdrew its offer within the week. Whatever else they wanted, they did not want their name near a fraud referral. The board, once ready to sell out of fear, found its spine after the wolf left the door. Then Lauren asked Owen to come in, not to ease her conscience, not as charity. Sterling Freight had lost a CFO to a legal investigation and needed someone who could see the truth inside numbers before the wrong people used them as weapons. "I want you to take the job," she said in her office. "Chief Financial Officer, not as an apology. The apology stands separately, and I will keep making it. I'm offering because you are the best I have ever seen at this, and I would be a fool to watch you walk out my door a second time." Owen was quiet. Through the glass wall, he could see the lobby. In a waiting chair too big for her, Mia sat swinging her feet and reading a library book, waiting for him to be finished. "I left that life on purpose," he said. "I am not going back to a job that eats a man's evenings and calls it ambition. I did that once. I'm not doing it to her." Lauren followed his eyes to Mia and nodded because she understood, and because something in her did not want to talk him out of being the kind of father who said no to power when love required it. "Then tell me what you can do," she said, "and I'll tell you whether there is a version of this that lets me stand at the bus stop by 3. They worked it out there by the window, not as employer and applicant, but as something harder to name. 3 days a week, never past 5. Emergency authority over financial controls. Full benefits for Mia. No meetings that could have been emails. No dinners disguised as leadership. No job title that cost him his child. More than a month later, the arrangement had settled into a shape that worked. Owen consulted for Sterling Freight on his own terms, rebuilding controls that should have caught Roland Pierce years earlier. The company steadied. Ashford became a closed chapter. Pierce's case moved through court on its own unhurried schedule, and the same people who had studied their screens when Owen walked out under accusation now met his eyes in the hallway and held them. Lauren came for dinner on a Thursday, which had somehow become a standing thing without anyone proposing it out loud. Mia appointed herself in charge of the evening and, halfway through, produced a new drawing for the refrigerator. 3 figures now beneath the same lopsided yellow sun. 2 tall, 1 small, all holding hands in a row. "That one's you," Mia told Lauren, in case somehow the hair color did not make it obvious. Lauren looked at the drawing for a long moment and did not trust her voice. After Mia was put to bed, Owen and Lauren stood in the cramped kitchen with the radiator ticking and the dishes drying beside the sink. Lauren set something on the table between them. Her mother's handbag, soft leather, dark honey, the thing she had lost. The thing Owen had returned. The thing that had cracked open the truth. "I want you to keep it," she said. "Lauren, I can't take that." "You can. You are the only person I have ever met who held something worth $37,000 with every reason in the world to keep it, and no one who would ever have known, and gave it back because it wasn't yours." She pushed it an inch across the table. "If I ever start forgetting what actually matters, I want it sitting wherever you are. Hold on to it for me, please." Owen looked at the bag, then at her, and understood the way he understood numbers that they were not really talking about a bag. He did not make a speech. That had never been his way, and she would not have believed one anyway. He reached across the worn leather and closed his hand over hers. Warm, certain, quiet. Neither moved to fill the silence, because for once, the silence was already saying everything. He had once returned a bag that was never his and asked for nothing in return. She had once fired an innocent man and learned that redemption does not begin when you feel sorry. It begins when you tell the truth publicly, repair the damage privately, and never again confuse quiet dignity for weakness. The world had called Owen Maddox a thief, but when the truth finally entered the room, it was the accusers who could not lift their eyes. Sometimes the moment that defines us happens when no one else is watching, or worse, when everyone is watching for us to fail. Owen's quiet decision to return a $37,000 handbag the very morning he was labeled a thief and fired is a reminder that integrity is not a performance. It's a promise we keep with ourselves. In the face of public humiliation, he chose character over anger, truth over easy vindication, and in doing so, cracked open the lie built against him. The world may strip you of a title, a paycheck, or pride, but it can't confiscate the choices you make. Your dignity is yours alone, and when you protect it, you protect everyone who believes in you. Remember this story. Real justice begins the instant we refuse to become what others accuse us of being. If this lesson moved you, share where you're watching from and tell us about a time you chose integrity over convenience. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you never miss another tale proving that character still matters. Your comment might inspire someone standing at their own crossroads today, and together we'll keep these stories alive.